So today I wanted to talk about something called the dominant bebop scale. What is the dominant bebop scale? Well, the dominant bebop scale is something that we can use to improvise over a dominant chord, or anytime that there's a dominant chord in some situation. Now with that being said, let's get right into it and explain what it is. So when you have a dominant chord, okay, I'm just showing the basic version so we know what chord tones, the primary chord tones, we're talking about. These are the notes you want to emphasize a lot of the time, right? To get the sound of the dominant. Okay, so got my little backing track here. So I want to be able to emphasize those notes, right? But if I want to play some scale stuff, let's see what happened. That's cool. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Those notes all came on the downbeat. But what if I want to continue my line going up? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That something happened right there. That came on the end. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Oh no, my chord tones are not on the downbeat anymore, and I got this avoid note being on the upbeat. We want to avoid that whenever we can. So how do we do that? Well, we do it through something called a dominant bebop scale. Okay, and all that is you're just gonna add a passing tone between the flat 7 and the 1. Okay, and that adds another note to your scale so that it's 8 notes. It's rhythmically symmetrical, so you won't have that problem where stuff shifts to being on the offbeat, or certain things that you don't want to be on the downbeat hitting on the strong beats. Okay, so let's check that out. We have got, right? Cool. That's perfect. That's what we want. We just added a note between flat 7. Now let's check out with the backing track how that sounds. And I can start off of any note. That's the nice thing about this. Start off of any of the chord tones. Okay, so it don't matter as long as I'm starting my line, or getting my line so that these chord tones land on the downbeat. The dominant bebop scale will allow me to keep those chord tones on the downbeat, and really particularly keep this void note on the upbeat, instead of emphasizing it, okay, which is what I want to not do, okay? Cool. So, oops. So, it don't matter, I can keep going, okay? So you can use this scale to create infinite movement through a dominant chord. It's kind of nice. And you can combine it with arpeggios to create a little, an exercise, okay? So that you can navigate through a dominant where it doesn't all sound scalar. Because doing this, oops. You know, that sounds it can get a little bit boring if you're just doing that the whole time. Like, that's gonna get boring, okay? So you combine some other stuff with it. And what we're going to do is use arpeggios in combination with that dominant bebop scale. Okay. So here's how it's going to work. There's 4 arpeggios that we're going to use off the chord tones of this G7. So the first is just the G7. The next one is off the 3rd. Okay, and we get a half diminished. The next one's off the 5th, and we get a D minor 7. The next one is off the flat 7, and that gives us an F major 7. So that's what we're going to use in combination with the bebop scale. So here's how it's going to work. We go, let's start up and go down. Okay, we'll start on the flat 7. Okay. Then we're gonna come down 1 and 2, and now we're on the downbeat on a chord tone. That's perfect, what we want. So we're just gonna go down the bebop scale until we get to the next chord tone down. Okay, then we go up the arpeggio. Then we 1 and 2 and we're on a chord tone now. So then we go down the bebop scale till we get to the next arpeggio down. Same thing, going down the bebop scale till we get to the next arpeggio down. And oh no, we landed on a non-chord tone, but there's a solution. For this G7, we'll put a passing tone in between 5 and 6, and that'll get us back on. Okay, so you can do it that way, where you start at the highest one and come down, or you can go up the arpeggio, down the scale to the next arpeggio up, down the scale to the next arpeggio up, and so on. And you could do that forever if you wanted to. Let's hear what that sounds like in the musical context. Okay, so I'll put the backing track on and we'll hear what it sounds like. Okay, so I'm gonna press play. And I'll start going up first. Alright, so here we go. I could keep going, but I'm gonna come down now. I could just keep doing this and stay here. So you can use that to create some lines, and because you can just keep going, you can really get used to that dominant movement. Okay, you can go up the scale infinitely, you can go down the scale infinitely, you can keep doing that chord, that arpeggio scale ladder, keep doing it over and over in either direction, doesn't matter. To build some comfort with the sound of that particular dominant chord. But you should also do it in other keys. Let's take a look at that real quick before we end here. All right. So before I was doing it over G7, right? So like a 2-5 in C. Now this backing track is in F. Okay? So like just G minor. Alright, so just G minor, C7. These are the chord tones we're getting on the downbeat. That's from the root going down. So now I'm just trying to combine the scale with other things I know. You know, so I'm just using partially fragments of stuff that I know, and sometimes I'm using the scale, sometimes I'm going up the arpeggios like we talked about. So yeah, definitely do it in other keys. You know, don't just do it on a dominant going to C. Do it in like other 2/5s, like 2/5 and F, where you're playing a C7 instead. Where you're playing like A minor, D7. You know. So anyway, do other keys. That's the point here. All right. So go ahead, work on that. Try to get those little movements under your fingers and see what you come up with.